Class, our topic for today is audit planning and materiality. But before we go to our topic, so quickly discuss muna natin class yung stages in audit. So basically, pag may audit engagement ka, ito yung buong process or yung lahat ng stages na dadaanan mo. Number 1 is preliminary engagement activities. Okay, or PEA, preliminary engagement activities. Number 2 is audit planning. Number 3, you have understanding internal controls. Number 4, testing of internal controls. IC na lang, internal controls. Number 5 is substantive testing. And number 6 is completing the audit. Okay, so basically meron tayong 6 stages, alright? Preliminary engagement activities, planning, understanding internal controls, testing of internal controls, substantive testing, and completing the audit. Okay? So class, actually magagamit mo yan sa pagsasagot mo ng mga questions. Okay? Di ba, napansin nyo class, pag sasagot kayo ng audit theory, medyo nakakalito kasi lahat ng choices possible na iyon yung sagot. Tama? But we only have to choose the best answer. So for this one class, ang napansin ko, very helpful, for example, yung question is about planning. Alright? And then yung mga choices, may nakita ka doon na related sa substantive testing. Alright? So pwede mo nang eliminate agad yung choices na related to substantive testing. Alright? So later, i-apply natin siya, but basically, maganda yan. Malaking tulong yan kapag sasagot tayo ng mga questions. Okay, so in practice, again, dadaanan mo yan from preliminary engagement activities up to completing the audit. Para sa akin class personally, ito yung pinaka-value adding sa akin, yung planning and understanding internal controls. Sa planning kasi class, no? Sa part na yan, kailangan may understanding ka of the industry and the business. Okay? So kailangan talagang aralin mo lahat yan. And then pagdating mo naman sa understanding internal controls, ang aralin mo naman yung operations of the client. Okay? So lahat ng operations ni client. Kaya talagang mamamaster mo yung industry and the business, okay? And the operations. But for testing of controls and substantive testing, which is basically in yung bulk of the audit, medyo procedural na lang siya kasi mag-apply ka ng mga audit procedures. So yan, medyo boring siya para sa akin. Pero yung dalawa na to, yun yung pinaka-value adding. Alright? So yeah, so let's go to actually audit planning and materiality tayo, pero discuss ko quickly class yung preliminary engagement activities, though yung iba dyan, na-discuss na natin last meeting. Okay, preliminary engagement activities. So for this one class, meron lang tayong 3 activities na kailangan mong malaman, though actually related yan sa system of quality control. Number 1 is acceptance and continuance of client relationship. Na-discuss natin ito last time. So class, ano nga ba yung important sa acceptance and continuance of client relationship? Basically, i-assess natin yung integrity of the client. Tama? Siyempre, we only have to accept, the audit firms have to accept yung clients sa may integrity. Okay? So, depende yan. Merong client natin pwedeng new client or recurring client. Okay? Kapag new client siya, tingnan natin, bakit ba nag-change in auditor to? Okay? Let's say from KPMG, naging Deloitte siya. Alright? So, ang pwede natin gawin ng class, as we discussed last time, pwede nating i-ask yung predecessor auditor kung bakit nagkaroon ng change in audit firm. Okay? Pero syempre, dapat may consent ni client before ka makapag-communicate dun sa predecessor auditor. Kapag ka naman recurring client siya, pag recurring client, it means client mo na siya last year. Okay? So syempre, i-check mo muna kung ano yung prior experience mo with that client. Okay? Naging helpful ba? Naging cooperative ba si client? And so on and so forth. Siyempre, nandiyan na rin yung pag-investigate sa pag-new client, investigate mo din yung background of that client. So, tingin ka sa website ng company, o kaya kung listed company siya, tingin ka sa mga disclosures sa PSEI, alright? And siguro, yung mga executives, pwede mong puntahan sa LinkedIn profile nila, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, basically, yun yung acceptance and continuance of client relationship. Keyword dyan is integrity. Okay? Integrity of the client. Number 2 is evaluate compliance with ethical requirements, including independence. Okay, so na-discuss na rin ito last meeting when we discussed system of quality control. So we highlighted yung independence. So yung ethical requirements, i-discuss natin yan sa code of ethics. But aside from this class, syempre, assess din natin as audit firm, okay, kung mayroon ba tayong sufficient manpower, okay, and capabilities to service our clients. So very important yan. Number 3, again, sa preliminary engagement activities, 3 activities lang yan. So there's 1, 2. Number 3 is establish an understanding, okay, establish an understanding of the terms of the engagement. Okay, terms of the engagement. Actually, class, to establish an understanding of the terms of the engagement, gagamit tayo ng tinatawag natin na engagement letter. Okay, engagement letter basically yun yung contract between the audit firm and the client. Alright, so to highlight or to emphasize and to explain better yung understanding of the terms of the engagement, let's have a quick illustration. Alright, so erase ko muna ito class, make sure nakapin nyo ito, very important yan. Lagyan tayo ng illustration para mas ma-appreciate nyo yung topic natin. Okay, so let's say pumasa ka na ng board exam. Ayan, sa pinakal ka nag-review, and then audit mo, sobrang favorite mo yung audit, muntik mo na 100. Nagpamali ka ng konti, so 98 ka sa audit. Okay? So nagkamali ka sa audit prob, audit theory, perfect ka doon. Okay, so let's say, nag-join ka ng audit firm. This time, Deloitte naman. Ayan. Iba-ibang audit firms ang gawin natin example. Baka may magtampo sa kanila. Ayan, Deloitte. And then, napunta ka sa isang partner. Let's say, yung partner mo let's say, si John Lester H. Aratea. Ayan. Kasi yung mga names ng partner, yung mga first letter ng pangalan nila. So, first name, middle, and then last name. So, JHA. Ayan. Yung partner mo is partner JHA. And then, napunta ka sa market group na, let's say, airline industry. Okay? Airline industry. Okay. And then, ayan. So, sa airline industry, and then, let's say, airline industry. And then, ayan, na-assign sa'yo, very first engagement mo is JG Summit. Okay. JG Summit Holdings. Ayan. JG Summit Holdings is a conglomerate. Okay? When you say conglomerate, it means JG Summit owns other companies, owns shares of other companies. Okay? That's what you call conglomerate. Okay, so kakapasok mo lang sa Deloitte, wala pang kaalam-alam kasi galing ka pa lang sa board exam. So in terms of actual experience sa audit, wala pang alam. So may gano'n ka ng konting trainings, couple of weeks, let's say 2 weeks. And then syempre, nag-initiate ka na on your own, aaralin mo yung company muna. Okay? So before mo aralin yung company na yan, dapat aralin mo muna yung industry. Okay, paano ba nag-work yung, maraming industry under JG Summit. Pero let's say, paano ba nag-work yung airline industry na yan? Or paano nag-work yung banking industry na yan? Doon ka muna mag-start, okay? Before mo aralin yung mismong company. Got it? So, ganun sa audit. Aralin mo muna yung industry, yung business, before ka pumunta sa mismong company, sa operations niya. Alright? Now, after mo aralin yung industry, so nag-download ka ng audited FS kasi listed company naman yung client natin. So, ito yung mga nakita mo. Okay? So, chinek mo muna yung organizational structure. Para mas magkaroon tayo ng understanding of the client. Yung org structure, nandito si JG Summit. Okay? Under JG Summit, engage siya sa different industries. Okay? Meron siyang real estate. Okay? Meron siyang banks. Si JG Summit, meron din siyang airline. And then, meron siyang other investments. Okay? Others na lang. Ayan, kaya tinawag siyang conglomerate. Very diversified. Meron siyang real estate, banks, airline, and others. So, okay, so inaral mo siya. Nakita mo class yung real estate. Nandyan si Robinson's Land Corporation, RLC na lang, RLC, Robinson's Land Corporation. And you see na, okay, 61% owned pala niyan. Okay? Sa banks naman, nandyan si Robinson's Bank. Alright? Robinson's Bank. And then, si Robinson's Bank, si JG Summit owned niya yan, 60%. Okay? And Robinson's Bank owns Legazpi Savings Bank. Ayan, Legazpi Savings. 100%. Yun muna yung unang mga aralin sa audit. Tignan mo muna yung organizational structure para may idea ka. Especially for this one, sobrang laki ng client na yan, JG Summit. Ito muna yung unang mong gagawin. Sa airline naman class, nakita mo na si JG Summit owns 100% of CP Air Holdings. Ayan yung pangalan, CP Air Holdings, 100%. And CP Air Holdings owns 68% of Cebu Air. Ayan, we know Cebu Air, okay? Yung airline niya, okay? We know it's Cebu Pacific, right? Cebu Pacific. Okay, and then other investments of JG Summit, meron siyang shares kay PLDT na 8%. Meron siyang shares kay Meralco, actually ito medyo malaki, 30%, and others. Marami pa, pero ito yung basically yung highlight of the companies under JG Summit. Okay? So class, sa audit firms, kung mapansin mo dun, sobrang iniingatan nila yung pag ang client nila listed company. Okay? Kasi pag listed company class, required sila na i-audit sila quarterly. So imagine, every quarter pwede ka mag-charge ng audit fee sa listed company. Okay? And then usually class, mga listed companies, ang laki ng mga audit fees kasi tens of millions na charge nila dyan. Kaya ingat na ingat yan ng mga audit firms. Alright? So now class, because JG Summit is quite a huge client, so, ano yung nangyari dyan? Ito yung partner mo, si JHA. Ikaw, associate ka pa lang. So, let's say, in-assign dyan is 4 managers. Okay? 8 senior associates. And then, merong 15 na associates. Ayan, para ma-handle lahat. For example, lahat yan yung audit nung audit firm natin. Okay? So, now class, so aside from organizational structure, since naintindihan mo na siya, tinignan mo rin kung sino yung top management of JG Summit. Dito yung top management. Ayun natin, management. Or basically, sila yung mga executive officers. Okay? So, nakita mo dyan class, currently, si Lance Gokongwei, ayan, si Lance Gokongwei serves as the president and CEO of JG Summit. Okay, so Lance Gokongwei. And then marami dyan, actually maraming vice president dyan, yung mga senior vice president, pero piliin na natin. Okay, so si Lance Gokongwei, yung president and CEO, nandyan si Michael Liwanag. Okay, Michael Liwanag as one of the senior vice president, SVP. Okay, and then nandun si Nicasio Lim Okay, another SVP, and so on and so forth. So marami yan, pero tatlo lang muna na yan yung alamin natin. So yun yung management, okay? So meron kang top management, meron ka ding board of directors. So tinignan mo yung board of directors, actually ang maganda kapag listed yung company, available yung mga prior year na audited financial statements. So from there pa lang, makikita mo agad yung structure and then yung management and board of directors of the company. Board of directors, nandiyan class si James Go. So nakita mo si James Go, siya pala yung chairman of the board. Actually, part din ng board of directors si Lance Go Kongwei. Sir, pwede pala yun, management ka, and then part ka ng BOD? Yes, pwede yung class. So, si Lance Go Kongwei, not independent director siya. Okay, he's not an independent director. So, pwede pa rin siya maging part of BOD, pero required na merong independent directors. So, tingnan mo class kung sino yung mga independent directors. Nandyan si Antonio Go. Okay, Antonio Go, Jose Pardo, ayan. And then, nandyan din si Renato de Guzman. Okay, Renato de Guzman. Ayan. Okay, so yung tatlo na yung class, sila yung mga independent directors. Okay? So again, yung management pwede maging part of BOD, pero important na merong independent directors. And yung tatlo na yung class, part sila of the audit committee. Okay, audit committee. So, very important yung audit committee. Bakit sir? Kasi yung audit committee, dyan nakikipag-communicate yung audit firm natin. Yung partner natin. Okay, audit team natin communicates with the audit committee. Okay? And take note, yung audit committee, dapat, ang composition yan, independent directors. Si Lance Go Kongwei, hindi siya pwede maging part of the audit committee. Kasi dapat independent yung audit committee dito sa management para walang conflict of interest. Got it? So again, audit team reports directly to the audit committee. Okay. So yan yung natutunan natin about our client, si JG Summit. Balik tayo dito class sa lesson natin. Alright, so establishing the terms of the engagement. So basically class dito, mag-create tayo, prepare tayo ng engagement letter. Okay. Engagement letter is a contract, written contract between the audit team, and the client. Okay? So basically class, engagement letter, nandyan yung terms of the engagement. Okay? So PPR dyan between the audit team, si partner JHA, siya yung representative of Deloitte, and then PPR dyan yung management and the board of directors. Okay? Yung purpose class of the engagement letter is basically, number one, to outline the terms. Okay? And then second is to avoid misunderstanding of the engagement. Para very clear pa lang sa start kung ano yung magiging engagement. And in this case, it's an audit engagement. Sir, ano ba yung content of the engagement letter? So class, ito yung mga nasa engagement letter. 5 items. Pwedeng 5 or more, pero ito basically makikita mo dyan. Number 1, sa engagement letter class, makikita mo dyan yung objective and scope. Okay? Objective and scope. Since yung engagement natin is an audit engagement, so we know class, yung objective niyan is to obtain reasonable assurance about the reliability of financial statements. Tama? So natutuhan natin yun sa very first lesson natin. Objective in an audit is to obtain reasonable assurance about the reliability of financial statements. Yung scope class, dapat very clear din yan. Okay? So si JG Summit, we know, ang tawag sa kanya, siya yung parent, and then yung under sa kanya, yun yung mga subsidiaries niya. Tama? So sa scope, dapat nakalagay dito, sino ba yung audit natin? I-audit ba natin dito si parent lang? Okay? Or kasama si subsidiary? Or baka naman class, hindi lahat ng subsidiaries kasama, baka si Cebu Air lang, okay? O kaya si Robinson's Bank lang. So, basically class, sa engagement letter, sa unang-unang part niyan, nandyan yung objective and scope of the audit. Alright? Number 2, makikita natin dyan class yung responsibilities. Responsibilities, very crucial yan, okay? Because ina-outline dyan class, ano yung responsibility of the auditor and yung responsibility of the management. Alright? So again, since ang purpose of the engagement letter is to avoid misunderstanding, okay, among the parties, dapat naka-outline dyan yung responsibility. Si auditor, basically class, yung responsibility niyan is to express an opinion on the financial statements. Okay? Yan, basically, ito lang naman yung responsibility of the auditor. Mag-express tayo ng opinion on the fairness or reliability of the financial statements. Si management, mas marami siyang responsibilities. Number 1, ang responsibility ni management is the preparation of financial statements. Plus, hindi si auditor yung nagpe-prepare ng FS. So, take note, hindi si auditor nagpe-prepare ng FS. Yung ideal, ganito. Si management, meron siyang FS. Ang tawag natin doon, unaudited FS. Yun yung ibibigay niya kay audit team. Okay? So, si audit team, yung audit yun. And then, after that, magkakaroon ng audited FS. Yung audited FS will be used by the users. Yun yung ideal. So, bakit ideal? Kasi class in practice, lalo na pag maliit yung client, okay? Pag small yung client, walang FS yun. Right? So, pag walang FS si client, si auditor yung gagawa ng FS. Okay? So, actually, yun yung medyo conflict din yun. No? Kasi as auditors, we're supposed to audit the FS. Paano kung walang FS si client? Hindi siya marunong gumawa ng FS. So yun, magkakaroon ng medyo independence issue pagdating doon. Anyway, pag-aaralan natin sa Code of Ethics. So preparation of FS is one of the responsibilities of the management. Number 2 class is the implementation of internal controls. Si client din yung bahala dyan. Siya din yung responsible dyan. Maalala nyo yung stages na nilagay ko dito, yung understanding of internal controls and testing of internal controls, doon natin i-discuss yan. Okay? Implementation of internal controls. Ayan. And then, meron pa tayong third one. Okay? Yung third responsibility of the management is adjust the financial statements to correct misstatements. Okay? So, for example, class, in-audit na natin si client, no? Nakita natin yung cash ni client overstated ng 10 million. Okay, magpo-propose tayo ng adjustment si client. Okay, so si client or si management, siya yung bahala mag-adjust ng FS. Hindi tayo mag-adjust ha. Si auditors, magpo-propose lang tayo. Parang sa audit prob nyo, may propose adjusting entries. Ipo-propose lang natin yun, si client yung bahala mag-record nun. Okay? And then number 4 is, si client din bahala sa compliance with laws and regulations. Remember, na-aaral natin ito last time? Sa system of quality control and compliance with laws and regulations. So basically, naka-outline yan in the engagement letter. Number 3, 5 yan, di ba? Number 3 is, other requirements. If meron, okay? So for example, class, dito, meron tayong client na under JG Summit, Robinson's Bank. Si Robinson's Bank, since belong siya sa banking industry, mas marami requirements yan. So may requirements yan kay, BIR, obviously, lahat naman. And then may requirement yan sa SEC, since listed company. And then may requirement din yan kay BSP. Okay, so BSP kasi governs all banks in the Philippines. Ngayon naman klase, Cebu Pacific, okay, si Cebu Air, baka meron din yan other requirements from, kasi nag-govern naman sa mga airline companies dito, ang pangalan is Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines or CAAP. So si CAAP, baka meron siyang certain requirements sa mga airline companies, i-outline din sa engagement letter yun na kailangan mag-provide din tayo as auditors. Alright, other requirements. Number 4, this is number 4 pala class. So, number 4. Number 3 natin is the framework. Okay? Framework. Well, alam natin class, sa framework in an audit, this is just your PFRS or the IFRS. Okay? So, i-outline lang siya. Kasi class in the Philippines, yan naman yung applicable. Okay? Kapag ngayon, nasa US ka, for example, sa US, ang gagamitin mo ng US GAAP. Right? So, kaya ang papansin mo, in the Philippines, most of the engagement letters or all of the engagement letters, ang framework na ginagamit is the PFRS or the IFRS. That's number 4. And last one class is, syempre, hindi mawala dyan yung fees. Okay? Yung fees. So, tinuruan ko lang kayo last time kung paano mag-compute ng fees, di ba? So, number of hours, for example, kay managers, 50 hours. Kay partner, 40 hours. Senior associate, 70. Kay associate, 80 hours. Then, multiply natin yung sa rate per hour. Okay? Doon mo makikita yung total fees sa engagement yan. Okay? Siyempre, dapat start pa lang, very clear na kung how much i-charge mo kay client. Alright? So, in an engagement letter, again, ito yung mga usually makikita mo dun. Okay, so, that is your preliminary engagement activities. Acceptance and continuance of client relationship, evaluate compliance with ethical requirements, including independence, and establish an understanding of the terms of engagement. Saan ka mag-establish yan? Through the use of an engagement letter. Okay. So, ayoko sanang i-erase to class. Okay. So, okay na ba? Erase ko na to. So, make sure nakapin nyo siya. Mga pinagsasabi ko dyan. Alright. So, ito na lang. Try natin i-erase to. Dito natin pagkasyahin yan. Okay. Try natin kung kaya. Actually, hindi kaya. Okay lang. Erase ko na lahat to. So, erase ko na lahat. And actually, yung topic natin is audit planning. Okay? Yung diniscuss ko is preliminary engagement activities, which is the first stage in audit. Alright? Now, sa audit planning, so basically, inaccept na natin si client. Okay? Nagpirmahan na tayo. So, start na to ng audit. No? So, audit planning, basically, usually ang nagpa-participate dyan, obviously, yung partner natin, okay, and managers. Partners and managers. Ayan. So, syempre high-level planning yan, okay? Actually, ang role mo lang dyan as an associate, naalala ko pag planning, so di ba, wala ka pang alam pero part ka ng planning, okay? Nandun ka lang, nakaupo ka lang doon sa meeting. And then, ang gagawin mo, after the meeting, during the meeting, magmi-minutes ka doon. Minutes of the meetings ka, okay? And then, after the meeting, gagawa ka ng slides, okay? So, pwedeng mag-edit ka lang ng slides or gagawa ka ng slides from scratch. Yun yung gagawin mo. Syempre, associate ka pa lang. Huwag kang mag-expect na malaki agad yung responsibility mo, di ba? Mag-start ka muna sa ganun. So, minutes of the meetings ka muna. Okay, so, audit planning class. So, again, depende yan. Yung intensity of audit planning will depend on many factors. So, for example, class, size and complexity of the client. Ito, medyo complex yan. Okay? So, JG Summit, ang daming companies under it. Okay? Ngayon, pag yung client natin, maliit lang, hindi pa listed company, for example, mas madali yung planning natin dun. For this one, medyo intense yung planning natin dyan. Okay? What else? New versus recurring client. Pag recurring client, since na-service natin sa last year, mas madali na yung planning sa kanila. Tama? So, siguro magko-concentrate lang tayo sa issues na encounter natin from last year. Ngayon, pag new client siya, ayun, mas matagal yung preparation natin, mas matagal yung planning. Okay? So, maraming factors to consider sa intensity of the audit planning. Basically, class, sa audit planning, dalawa yung magiging focus mo dito. Okay? Number 1 is establish what we call overall audit strategy. Okay? Overall audit strategy. Okay, so remember, under overall audit strategy, tatlong items yung kailangan matutunan dyan. Number 1 is scope. Number 2 is timing. Number 3 is direction of the audit. Pag sinabi mong scope, well, na-discuss ko na ito earlier, basically, yan yung coverage of the audit. Okay? Sa client natin, si JG Summit, obviously kasama yan. So si parent i-audit natin, kasama ba si subsidiaries? So pag-uusapan natin yan, okay? So pag kasama si subsidiaries, ayan, si parent and subsidiaries yung i-audit natin. Sa coverage class or sa scope, nandyan na rin yung kung alin yung i-audit natin. Is it annual or interim? Okay? Kasi class, again, for listed companies, required sila i-audit quarterly. So 3 quarters i-audit sila and then isang annual. So, ganun yan. So, dapat, dito pa lang sa scope, alam na natin yun. Okay? So, anong quarter ba i-audit natin? 3rd quarter, 2nd quarter, or yung buong year i-audit natin? Okay? So, basically, yun yung scope. Coverage of the audit. Pero yung subsidiary sa client natin, and let's say, annual yung i-audit natin kay client. Right? So, yun lang ibig sabihin ng scope. Pag sinabi mo namang timing class, well, basically, ito yung timeline ng audit natin. Okay? So, for example, yung audit natin, mag-start tayo ng October. Ayan. So, let's say, yung planning natin starts in October. And then, this is December 31. Target natin matapos yung audit natin, let's say April 1, okay? Para ma-meet natin yung April 15 deadline. So ito yung timeline of the audit. Pag-uusapan din yan during the planning stage, okay? So timeline, what else? Nandyan din yung schedule of field work, okay? So makikipag-usap na tayo kay client kung kailan yung field work. For example, class, pupuntahan natin si, for example, yung office ni Cebu Pacific, okay? Yung office ni Robinson's Land. Dapat una pa lang, i-communicate mo na kay client kung kailan yung mga schedule of field work na yan. Right? What else? Nandyan din class yung deliverables or yung mga documents needed from the client. Ito very important. Kasi in audit class, again, kumukuha tayo ng evidence. Right? So saan makakuha ng evidence? Yung documents ni client, mga supporting documents niya. Right? So yung mga supporting documents na yan, una pa lang, sa planning stage pa lang. Again, yung planning na yan, partners, managers, kasama na rin dyan yung management. So baga parang mag-meet sila. Right? So mag-meet, isipin mo ganito. Yung buong audit team, and then yung ito yung management and actually management lang usually yan. Buong audit team and management mag-meet sila, okay, sa office. And then ikaw doon, ano ka lang, magre-record ka ng pag-uusapan. Kung gano'n nangyayari yung audit planning, alright? So, pag-uusapan din doon class yung mga documents na kailangan nyo throughout the audit. Alright? So, list lang siya, ibigay ko kay client, ito yung mga kailangan namin, and then ito yung mga dates kung kailan namin kailangan yan. Alright? So, din siya. What else? Ano pa yung pag-uusapan sa timing? Actually, yan lang. So, timeline ng audit, field work kung kailan pupunta kay client, and then yung mga documents na kailangan. Okay? Plus, when you say direction naman, ito yung areas where there may be high risk. Ayan, ito yung mga risky areas. Okay, bigyan tayo ng examples. For example, class, yung IFRS 16, okay, na leases. Actually, for Cebu Pacific, for Cebu Air, risky yan. Bakit, sir? Kasi, di ba sa IFRS 16, if you remember, wala na yung operating lease, tama? Well, in some remote instances na lang yun. So, usually lahat, finance lease na, okay? And mostly, yung mga planes niyan, like sa Philippine Airlines sa Cebu Pacific, nililist lang nila yan. Okay? Hindi nila binibili yan kasi mahal yan. Usually, nililist lang nila yan. So, sa books nila, hindi nila pwedeng i-record yun as operating lease. Finance lease na yun. So, meron silang lease asset and merong lease liability. So, malaking impact nun sa financial statements. Okay? So, ayan. This one is a critical. Ang tawag natin dyan, direction of the audit. What else? Well, yung effect ng COVID, pandemic, to Cebu Pacific. So, we know, yung Cebu Pacific, very minimal na lang yung naging because of the pandemic. Okay, during the pandemic, hindi na masyadong nag-ooperate yan. Okay, so ang daming losses yan. In fact, yung losses niyan so far, it's 22 billion pesos. Okay, as of now, 22 billion pesos yung losses niyan. So for this one, yung effect ng COVID to Cebu Pacific, ayan, major issue natin yan. So assess natin, kaya po bang mag-survive ni Cebu Pacific? Kasi in accounting, we know na meron tayong assumption doon na going concern assumption. Right? And since yung framework natin is PFRS, assess din natin kung kaya pang magtuloy-tuloy mag-operate ni Cebu Pacific. Okay, what else? For example, class, yung Forex. Yung mga planes na ganyang class, Cebu Pacific, usually bumibili ng mga fuel yan, mga crude oil. Okay? Yung binibili niya na yun, denominated yan in different currency. Okay? Pwede siyang bumibili sa US dollar yun. Or pwede siyang bumibili sa Saudi. So sa Saudi naman, yung denomination naman is, or yung currency is real. Okay? So exposed sa Forex yung Cebu Pacific na yan. Alright? So ayan, isa sa mga direction in audit natin yan. And last one, for example, class, let's say si RLC, okay? Robinson's Land naman. For example, may bago siyang system, accounting system. Okay? Let's say, meron siyang bagong ERP or Enterprise Resource Planning or SAP. Ayan. May bago siyang implemented na accounting system. Well, major issue din sa atin yan. Okay? Direction din yan. Kasi, titingnan natin kung paano ba nag-work yung bagong system na yun. Kung properly implemented of the client. Okay? So basically, class, ito yung tinatawag natin overall audit strategy. Tatlo lang kailangan malaman dyan. Scope, timing, and direction. Last one, before we go to our handouts. Number 2 is, okay, erase ko na to class. So make sure nakapin nyo to. Erase ko lang para yun di natin nun to erase. So erase ko to. Okay. So number 2, dalawa lang yan. So overall audit strategy and developing the more detailed audit plan. Okay? Audit plan or audit program. Ayan. So sa audit plan or audit program, naka-include dito class yung audit procedures, yung planned audit procedures, okay, that we will apply during the audit. So kailan ina-apply yung audit procedures? Usually class sa test of controls and substantive testing. Take note, plan pa lang yan. Magbabago pa yan. Okay? So plan pa lang. Bibigyan kita ng idea kung paano nag-work yung, or ano yung itsura ng audit plan na yan or audit program. So isipin nyo lang class ganito. Let's say, this is the balance sheet of our client. For example, pili tayo. Let's say si Cebu Air na lang. Okay? So let's say ito yung itsura ng balance sheet niya. Meron siyang cash and cash equivalents. Okay? AR. Let's say meron siyang investments. Okay? Meron siyang inventory. For example, may inventory siya. Okay? PPE. And then meron siyang leased asset and leased liability. Okay? Leased asset and leased liability. Okay. So, yung audit plan or audit program, mag-upload ako niyan soon. Okay? Pag nasa substantive testing na tayo. Pero bigyan mo na ito ng idea. Okay. Ito yung audit plan for the balance sheet. So, basically, nakalagay dyan yung objective. Yung objective natin class, actually, related dyan sa mga management assertions. Management or financial statement assertions. Naalala nyo pa yung completeness, existence, ano pa? Valuation, and then yung presentation, disclosure, and so on and so forth. Next time, i-discuss natin extensively sa substantive testing. So, FYI muna ngayon yun. Yung objective of the audit class, actually, related siya sa financial statement or the management assertions. Okay? So, for each line item, cash, AR, investment, inventory, ilalagay natin dyan yung objective. So, basically, kung anong assertions yung iti-test natin for each line item. Okay? After that, may objective tayo, and then meron tayong procedures. Okay? Yung procedures, for example, cash and cash equivalents. Ano ba yung mga audit procedures na ginagawa natin dyan? Number 1, bank recon. Okay? Number 2, proof of cash. Number 3, pwede ring bank confirmation. Okay? Bank confirmation. So, class, actually, yung ginagawa nyo sa audit problem, di ba, bank recon kayo, nagpo-proof of cash, well, obviously, gagawin mo yun sa totoong buhay, no? Ang tawag natin doon yung mga procedures. Okay? Audit procedures. So, for cash, bank recon, proof of cash, bank confirmation. For accounts receivable naman, ano yung ginagawa nyo sa audit problem? Di ba, meron kayong aging doon? Aging schedule, AR confirmation. Obviously, yung AR confirmation, din yung ginagawa sa audit problem. Kasi literally, mag-i-email ka or mag-send ka ng letter sa mga customers mo. Yun yung confirmation, right? Ayan. What else? Sa investments naman, ang pwedeng procedure na gawin dyan class is basically recomputation. Okay? I-recompute natin kung tama ba yung recording of the client. Ano pa? Mark to market. Tingnan mo kung tama yung market. Siyempre, investments recorded sila at fair value. So, i-recompute natin kung tama ba yung fair value of these investments. Inventory naman, well, pinaka-sikat for inventory is inventory count. Okay? Inventory count usually close to December 31 yan. No? Pwedeng December 30, January 1, January 2, ganyan yung inventory count. Okay? So class, yung mga ganito gawin sa audit So usually class, yung mga na-assign sa inventory count na yan, yung mga nakatira sa Manila. Kasi kapag Christmas break na, yung mga nasa provinces, umuwi na yan, nagli-leave na yan, di ba? Ngayon, pag alam nung team mo, nasa Manila ka nag-stay, ikaw yung i-assign sa inventory count. So literally, December 30 or December 31 nangyayari yan. Or January 1, January 2, ganun. Okay? So pag nasa malayong province ka, okay, safe ka from inventory count, di ka i-assign dyan. Okay, sa inventory, you have inventory count, nandyan din yung lower of cost or NRV. Okay, so re-recompute mo yan. And then, cut-off procedures. Okay, so cut-off procedures. Ano yung cut-off procedures? Naalala nyo sa FAR or sa audit? Di ba meron doon na, okay, shinip ng December 31, FOB shipping point, ni-record ng ganito-ganito. Okay, or na-receive ng ganitong date, FOB destination, blah, blah, blah. So, inaalam natin, part ba ito ng inventory or hindi yan part of inventory? Cut-off procedures ang tawag doon. Okay? It's another procedure for inventory. Ano pa? PPE naman class, mostly inspection yan. So, i-inspect natin if, talaga ba nag-i-exist yung land na ni-record ni client, yung building, okay? Or let's say, pwedeng inspect natin yung title. Talaga bang kay client nakapangalan yung land na to? Kasi dapat sa kanya nakapangalan kay client para ma-record niya as land, right? Now, closely related sa mga assertions yun. For example, yung land, okay? Dapat malaman natin kung kay client talaga. Ano tawag natin doon? Existence. Talaga nag-i-exist yung land na yun. Pag in-inspect natin, may land talaga. May title. Existence assertion yan, okay? Last one is lease asset and lease liability. Siguro dito, i-recompute natin, i-apply natin yung IFRS 16. Okay? Kung tama yung computation ng lease asset, lease liability. Di ba naalala nyo, yan yung mga implicit rate, whatever. So yan. Yan yung mga procedures natin class. So just to give you an idea. So again, expound natin yan in substantive testing. And then after procedures, nandyan din yung time. Okay? Allocated time. For example, sa cash, 20 hours. Okay? AR, 5 hours. Investments, 10, and so on and so forth. So ito total natin yan. Okay, nandun din yan. And lastly, sa last column, very important, is our conclusion. Okay? Yung conclusion natin, so after ng time, may conclusion dyan. For example, cash. Conclusion natin ay, okay, cash is correctly recorded. Okay? Sa AR naman, sabihin natin na, AR is overstated by ganitong amount. Inventory is overstated or understated by this amount. Yun yung conclusion. Alright? So, class, ganun yung itsura ng audit plan or audit program. So, again, ito yung sa balance sheet natin. So, class, kaya medyo hassle sa audit. Imagine, isang client pa lang to. Ang daming procedures. Okay? What if inassign sa'yo 5 clients? Balance sheet pa lang yan. Merong ganyan sa income statement, sa statement of cash flows, etc. Okay? But, again, audit plan and audit program, nandyan yung mga, ang tawag natin dito, class, ito yung mga accounts natin, account balances. Ito yung mga line items natin. Okay? So, class, pag nabasa nyo sa audit, yung account balance, isipin nyo lang yung line item yun. Yung balance, yung ending balance of each line item. Okay? Account balance yung tawag doon. Alright. So, ayan. So, again, meron kang ito yung mga accounts mo. Okay? Mga account balances. Meron tayong objective, which is closely related to the financial statement assertions. Meron tayong procedures for each account. Meron tayong allocated time for each account or for each procedure. And then, meron tayong conclusion. Siyempre, very important yung conclusion natin. Okay? So, siyempre, dito wala pa tayong conclusion kasi hindi pa natin ina-apply. Plan pa lang yan. Okay? Yung conclusion na yan kapag nasa substantive testing na tayo. Alright? So, ayan, yung mga kwento ko sa inyo. So, hopefully, mas na-appreciate nyo yan. Let's go to our handouts. Let's go to number 1. Question number 1. It involves establishing an overall audit strategy for the engagement and developing an audit plan, okay, in order to reduce audit risk to an acceptably low level audit risk. Yun yung next topic natin. So basically, gusto natin i-minimize yan or to eliminate if possible. Ang tawag natin dyan is planning, audit planning. Letter B. Adequate planning of the audit work helps ensure that appropriate attention is devoted to important areas, especially yung direction. Okay, yun yung mga risky areas. All misstatements will be detected. Mali yan. So dito pa lang sa planning pa lang yun, di ba? So hindi ka pa makakita ng mga misstatements dyan. Makakita ka ng misstatements once you apply the procedures during substantive testing. Okay? And kahit naman substantive testing, mali pa rin yung all misstatements. All material misstatements dapat yan. Okay? So, X yung second bullet. Potential problems are identified, yes. Again, sa direction ulit. Okay? So, for example, yung effect ng COVID pandemic, yung IFRS 16, ayun yung mga potential problems yan. The work is completed efficiently and effectively. Yes, mas okay yung planning natin since may direct communication yan with the management. Okay? Literally, mag-meet talaga kayo with the management. So, pag-uusapan yung kailan yung timeline, deliverables, documents na kailangan. So, from there, expect na yung audit natin mas magiging efficient and effective. Alright? So, answer dito, yes. Letter C, yes, no, yes, and yes. Got it? Okay. Audit plans should, number 1, precede actions. So, ibig sabihin precede actions before actions or before the procedures. Yes, planning muna, kaya tinawag natin na planned audit procedures before natin execute. Yung execution natin during substantive testing. Okay? Be flexible, yes. So, again, planned pa lang yan. Magbabago pa yan as we go through the audit process or the audit stages. Be cost beneficial, of course. So, kaya dito, syempre, yung time na i-allocate natin for each procedure, dapat, syempre, sakto lang. No? Hindi excessive, hindi sobrang baba. Okay? Because ito, makaka-affect yan sa audit fees na i-charge natin kay client. Right? Be cost beneficial. Yes, yes, and yes. Number 4, the auditor should plan the audit work so that the audit will be performed in an effective manner. The extent of planning will vary according to, number 1, size of the entity. Yes. Kay JG Summit, matinding planning yan. Okay? Matagal na planning yan. Ilang days siguro yan kasi ang daming clients kasama. Ang daming companies. So number 1 is, yes, complexity of the audit. So when you say complexity of the audit naman, class, for example, may dalawang clients. Yung isang client, manufacturing. Okay? Nagmamanufacture siya ng markers. Alright? Yung isang mong client, tech startup naman. Okay? Technology startup. Okay? Let's say yung client na yun is nagtitrade ng, let's say, mga bitcoins, mga ganyan. Okay? So, mas complex to, obviously, than yung isa na nagmamanufacture ng markers. Got it? So, complexity of the client, yes. Of the audit. Complexity of the client, complexity of the audit, yes. Auditor's experience with the entity and knowledge of the business. Yes, because again, pag new client, mas matagal yung preparation mo compared kay recurring client. Kay recurring client, nakapag-planning ka na last year. Okay, so mas madali na yung planning this year. Letter A, yes, yes, and yes. Number 5, which of the following matters should be considered with the auditor in developing overall audit strategy? A, important characteristics of the entity, its business, financial performance, reporting requirements, yes. Conditions requiring special attention to direction. Setting of materiality, actually, later, di-discuss natin yung materiality, pero kasama din yan sa overall audit strategy. Letter D. Number 6, an audit program, okay, should be designed for each individual audit and should include steps and procedures to A, detect and eliminate all fraud. So, from last meeting, alam natin, hindi yun yung goal natin in audit. B, increase the amount of management information available. Provide assurance that the objectives of the audit are met. When you say objectives, again, yun yung management assertions. Sa cash, gusto nating malaman, nag-exist ba yung cash na yan? Okay? Sa liabilities, gusto nating malaman, complete ba yung recording of liabilities? Completeness. Okay? So, ganun siya. Letter C yung sagot natin. Let's go to number 7. Which of the following matters least likely appear in the audit program? A. Specific procedures? Yes. B. Specific objectives? Yes. Estimated time? Yes. Documentation of the accounting and internal control system being reviewed? Wala niyan. Oh. So, yan palang class. Di ba sabi ko kayo na yung stages in audit, magagamit mo siya? Okay? So, stages in audit, yung letter D na yan, yung internal control, related yan sa understanding and testing of internal controls, which is stage 3 or 4. Okay? Pinag-uusapan pa lang natin is planning. So, mali na yung D na yan kasi wala siya sa planning. Okay? Letter D. The auditor shall agree the terms of the audit engagement with management or those charged with governance. Pag sila mo those charged with governance, ito yun. Board of Directors yun. So, yung terms na ginagamit or yung phrase na ginagamit is those charged with governance, okay, sa PSA. Engagement letter, letter A yung sagot natin dyan. Okay? Sige. So, class, isulat ko ulit yung stages in audit, no? Mabilis lang. Para lang, papakita ko lang sa inyo kung paano natin siya magagamit. Saan ba yung stages in audit natin? Stages. Number 1 is preliminary engagement activity. So, rewrite ko lang, ha? Number 2 is planning. Number 3 is understanding internal controls. Number 4, TOC or testing of internal controls, substantive testing, and completing the audit. Ayan. So, class, if we go to number 8, okay, yung engagement letter, alam mo na nandito sa preliminary engagement activities yan. Tama? Yung letter of audit inquiry, okay, yung letter of audit inquiry during substantive testing yan. Okay, management representation letter during completing the audit yan, confirmation letter, substantive testing yan. So, next time, pag-aaralan natin yan. Okay? But basically, class, ma-eliminate mo na agad yung nasa choices. So, for example, dito, terms of the engagement pa lang, pinag-uusapan natin. The auditor shall agree the terms of the engagement. Alam mo na yung letter B, letter C, and letter D, wala siya dito sa preliminary engagement activities. Nandito sila. So, eliminated na agad yung B, C, and D na yan. Got it? Sige. So, later, apply pa natin. Let's go to number 9. Which of the following topics is not normally included in the engagement letter? A. The auditor's preliminary assessment of internal control. Yung pa lang, mali na agad. Bakit? Nandito yung internal controls, oh. Sa 3 and 4. Yung engagement letter, nandito siya sa preliminary engagement activities. Mali na agad yung A na yan. So, A na yung sagot natin. Not normally included. Kuha niya? Okay. B, the auditor's estimate of the fee. Yun yung number 5 natin. Limitations on the scope of the engagement. Well, andyan na rin yung scope. Okay, objective and scope of the engagement. Description of responsibility for the detection of fraud. Okay, yung detection of fraud. So, yung in-eliminate ko na responsibilities kanina. Marami pa yun actually. Pero basically, nandun din yung detection of fraud. Well, ang may responsibility doon is the management. Okay? So, letter A is the answer here. Because, una-una, yung letter A is not part of preliminary engagement activities. Nandito siya sa 3 and 4. Ito pa, apply pa natin sa number 10. During the initial planning phase of an audit, a CPA most likely would A. Identify specific internal control. Take note, initial planning pa lang yung pinag-uusapan natin. Ito, yun yung pinag-uusapan na sa question. Nakalagay sa A, identify specific internal control objectives. Nandito pa yung internal control. Oh. So, mali na agad yung A na yan. So, lagyan mo na ng X yan. Okay? Because yung A, about understanding and testing of internal controls yan. B, evaluate the reasonableness of the client's estimate. Dito yan, pag-aaralan natin next time. Substantive testing. Mali na rin yung B. Okay? Kasi ito lang yung tanong ng planning. C, discuss the timing of the audit procedures with the client management. Yes, yan yung scope and, yung timing. Scope, timing, direction. Ito. Yung timeline, yung field work, yung documents needed. Letter C yan. Discuss the timing of the audit procedures. C yung sagot natin sa number 10. Letter D, inquire of the client's attorney as to whether any recorded claims are probable. Yung inquiry kay client's attorney, dito yan sa completing. Next time, pag-aaralan natin. So, as you notice, class, sa number 10, na-eliminate natin yung A, B, and D because alam natin, wala siya sa planning. Nandito siya sa internal controls and nasa completing. Okay? Let's go to number 11. The element of the audit planning process most likely to be agreed upon with the client before implementation of the audit strategy is the determination of A, evidence to be gathered. B, procedures to be undertaken. C, pending legal matters. Okay? Actually, yung ABC na hindi mo yan ina-agree kay client. Okay? D, timing of inventory observation. Dog yung sagot natin dyan. So again, kasama sa planning natin class, okay, is the timing. Okay? Basically, nandyan yung timeline, yung field work, yung documents needed. Sa field work na yan, part dyan is yung inventory observation natin, your inventory count, which usually happens dito near December 31. So doon pa lang, okay, i-agree na natin kay client, okay, so pupunta kami dyan December 30 ha. Okay, so i-arrange yung place namin dyan, kung saan kayo mag-field work, mag-inventory count. Alright? So that is letter D, timing of inventory observation. Number 12, in planning stage of an audit engagement, the auditor is required to perform audit procedures to obtain an understanding of the entity and its environment, including its internal control. Class, lagyan mo ng asterisk yung number 12 kasi i-discuss natin yan sa next topic natin. But basically, this is what you call risk assessment procedures. Yung risk assessment procedures, class, nandiyan na rin yung, kung naalala nyo yung different types of risk natin. Di ba, meron tayong audit risk, we have inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk. Next meeting natin i-discuss yun. Ang tawag natin dito, class, yung pag-assess ng risk na yun, risk assessment procedures, letter A for number 12. Number 13, which of the following procedures would a CPA ordinarily perform during audit planning? A, obtain understanding of the client's business industry. Do you agree with that? Yes. Ayun, ginawa natin. No? Business and industry. Ayan. Tinalam natin yung business niya, real estate banks, etc. etc. Okay, tinalam natin sa top management, si BOD, ginagamit natin yan. Ginagawa natin yan during audit planning. So letter A na yung sagot dyan. Class, eliminate natin yung choices. B, review the client's bank recon. Kailangan nagba-bank recon? Substantive testing. So, mali na agad yung B kasi planning yung tanong. Letter C, obtain client's representation letter. Representation letter, ginagamit yan during completing the audit. Okay? Nire-request natin kay client yan. So, mali na yung C. Review and evaluate client's internal control. Internal control dito yan. So, mali na rin yung D. Okay? Since yung audit planning, yung A lang yung related sa audit planning, B, C, and D are automatically eliminated. Answer is letter A. 14, in performing an audit of FS, the auditor should have or obtain knowledge of the client's business. Okay? Sufficient to A, make constructive suggestions concerning improvements in internal control. Una pa lang, class, yung understanding pa ng business, wala pa tayo sa internal control. So, mali na agad yung A. And also, pwede tayong magbigay ng constructive suggestions to the client. Okay? For example, may nakita tayong flaws. Okay? Dun sa internal controls ni client, pwede tayong mag-suggest. Pero secondary objective na lang yan ng audit. Yung primary objective is to express an opinion. Secondary, pwede tayong magbigay ng constructive suggestions. Right? So, hindi yan yung sagot. B, identify transactions and events that may affect the financial statements. That's correct. Yung example natin kanina, IFRS 16, okay? COVID pandemic, Forex, ano pa isang example natin? Yung, for example, may new accounting system. Alright? So, yun yung letter B. Identify transactions and events that may affect the financial statements. Boy, yung sagot natin dyan. Develop an attitude of professional skepticism. Assess level of control risk. Yung control risk na yan, dito yan sa understanding internal controls. Mali na yan. Okay? Boy is the answer for number 14. 15. Which of the following factors most likely would lead a CPA to conclude that the potential audit engagement should be rejected? Okay. Yung pinag-uusapan natin dito, class, or number 15, is preliminary engagement activities. Kasi dito, until pumirma tayo sa engagement letter, wala pa talagang kontrata. Okay? So, yun yung pinag-uusapan natin. Sabi dyan, which of the following factors most likely would lead a CPA to reject the audit engagement? A, the details of the most recorded transactions are not available. Internal control activities requiring segregation of duties. Letter C yung sagot natin, class. It is unlikely that sufficient appropriate evidence is available to support an opinion. Okay? So, for example, very important in audit na makakuha tayo ng evidence from the client. Bakit? Kasi ang primary responsibility natin is to render an opinion, to give an opinion on the financial statements. If wala tayong makukuhang evidence from the client, okay, paano tayo makapagbigay ng opinion? Eh, yun yung main responsibility natin. So, letter C is the answer. Kapag we believe na unlikely na makakuha tayo ng evidence, for example, si client class, anong nangyari sa kanya? Let's say, lahat manual documents, okay, printed documents lahat. And then biglang nagkasunog, okay, yung office ni client, lahat or half ng documents na wala na kailangan natin sa audit. Yun, isang instance yun na huwag natin i-accept yung audit kasi wala tayong makukuha evidence from the client. Right? Letter C is the answer. Number 16, which of the following factors would most likely influence an auditor's determination of auditability? Okay, A, complexity. B, existence, actually related to sa number 15. C, the adequacy of accounting records. Kasi yung accounting records, yun yung evidence natin. Tama? So kung wala siyang accounting records, paano natin i-audit si client? So again, yung auditability of the client, syempre, existence of the evidence. Letter C, adequacy of accounting records. Okay, number 17. The auditors are planning an audit engagement for a new client in a business that is unfamiliar for the auditors. Which of the following would be most useful source of information for the auditors during preliminary planning stage when they are trying to obtain a general understanding of audit problems that might be encountered? Okay. Sige. So, let's say kasi may bagong client. Okay, bago sa atin. Unfamiliar pa tayo dun sa business ni client. Ano yung best way, okay, na gawin natin? So, ganito ginagawa in practice class. Basahin natin yung choices. Client manuals, B, AICPA, industry audit guides, prior year working papers, latest annual interim FS issued by client. Actually, ang sagot natin dito, class, letter C, prior year working papers of the predecessor auditors. Explain ko saan yan. Okay. So, for example, di ba, Deloitte tayo. Let's say si JG Summit, let's say yung nag-audit dati dyan is PwC. Okay? So, PwC lumipat kay Deloitte. Medyo bago sa atin si JG Summit, no? Kasi first, new client natin yan. Ang gagawin mo dyan, class, makikipag-communicate ka with the predecessor auditor, with the consent, okay, from JG Summit, and then, ihiramin mo, okay, yung prior year working papers. Sir, ano ibig sabihin ng working papers? Ang ibig sabihin lang ng class ng working papers, tandaan mo, yan yung documentation, okay? Documentation yan, for example, ito, working paper yan, okay? makikita mo doon kung paano pinerform na procedures ni PwC. Yung, for example, yung bank recon, proof of cash, bank confirmation. Nandun lahat yun sa working papers. Kaya sinabing prior year. Kasi last year pa yun. Di ba last year ginawa ni PwC yun? Kasi this year sa atin si JG Summit. Okay? So, ihiram mo kay PwC or ihingin mo kay PwC, okay, with the consent of everyone, yung documentation niya. Okay? Iyon yung aaralin mo ngayon. So, sobrang helpful yan sa audit class. Let's say, bago ka, okay? Let's say associate ka, first year associate ka. Ngayon, may inassign sa'yo engagement. Kapag yung engagement na yun is a recurring client, ang una mo sabihin sa senior associate mo, pwede ko bang hingin yung prior year working papers? Iyon yung pinaka-okay na gawin. Pag nahingin mo yung prior year working papers, iyon yung aralin mo. Okay? Kasi iyon yung ginawa last year, basically. Okay? Iyon yung audit procedures last year. Di aralin mo na lang yun para mas maging prepared ka sa gagawin mo this year. Okay? That's letter C. 18. Prior to beginning the fieldwork of a new audit engagement in which a CPA does not possess expertise in the industry in which the client operates, a CPA should. Pwede ba yung class? Pwede ka bang mag-render ng services to the client kung wala ka pang expertise dun sa client na yun? Yes. Especially associate ka. First year associate, well, wala pa tayong kaalam-alam dyan. Ang alam na natin theory, audit theory pa lang, no? Wala pa tayong alam sa actual fieldwork, actual execution of audit procedures. Pwede mo bang accept yung engagement? Yes. So, ang gagawin mo doon, again, kaya may mga trainings dyan, okay? Kaya kailangan mo mag-aral on your own, okay? Kaya kailangan mong may guide si senior associate sa'yo. Letter D, obtain a knowledge of matters that relate to the nature of the entity's business. Pwede pa rin, okay? As long as gagawin mo yung part mo. Obtain knowledge through trainings, through the supervision of your senior associate, and so on. Okay, letter D yung sagot. Let's go to 19. Before accepting an engagement. Kasi pag sinabi mong before accepting an engagement, ito yun. Preliminary engagement activities. Okay, before accepting. Pag napirmahan mo na yung engagement letter, yun na yung acceptance of the engagement. Kasi, again, yung engagement letter, yun yung kontrata. Alright? Okay, an auditor is required to, letter A, obtain a copy of the client's FS. Hindi pa. After yan. Okay, after. Prepare a memorandum setting for the staffing requirements and documenting the preliminary audit plan. Okay, hindi yan. Kailan yung audit plan? Planning, no? Okay. Planning na yung audit plan. So, mali na yung letter, ano na yun? Letter B, okay? Letter C, make inquiries of the predecessor auditor after obtaining the consent of the prospective client. Naalala niyo yun sa preliminary engagement activities natin, yung number 1, acceptance or continuance of client relationship. Ang gagawin natin doon, pag may new client siya, communicate tayo with the predecessor auditor. Alamin natin yung reason why there's been a change in the auditor. Okay? Letter C yung sagot natin dyan. Letter D, discuss the management representation letter. Management representation letter, nandito sa completing the audit yan. Eliminated yung letter D. Okay. 20. Before accepting an audit engagement, so dito siya, preliminary engagement activities, a successor auditor, sino yung successor auditor? Si Deloitte. Yung dating auditor ni JG Summit, let's say si PwC, ang tawag natin doon, predecessor auditor. A successor auditor should make specific inquiries of the predecessor auditor regarding A, opinion, B, understanding as to the reason for the change of auditors. We know it's letter B. Okay, bakit siya lumipat from PwC to Deloitte? Okay, let's go to number 21. Which of the following procedures would an auditor most likely include in the initial planning? Letter A, obtain a written representation letter. No, completing the audit yan. B, examining documents. Pag nag-examine ka ng documents, substantive testing na yan. So, mali na rin yung B. C, consider whether the client's accounting estimate, substantive testing din yan. So, write it down, substantive testing. Determining the extent of the involvement of the client's internal auditors. Actually, pwede yan, okay? So, si internal auditors, ano nga ba yung difference ng external auditor and internal auditor? External, outside yan, audit firms yan. Pag internal, you're working for the company. Employed ka ng company na yan. Pag internal auditor ka, again, kahit hindi ka independent from the management. Pag external, kailangan independent ka dyan. Okay? Now, yung internal auditors, employees ng client natin yan. So, sa timing, pwede tayong makapag-communicate sa kanya. Yung documents needed, pwede hingin natin kay internal auditors yan, and so on and so forth. Letter D, yung sagot natin dyan. Okay, and then let's go to number 22. Prior to commencing field work, an auditor usually discusses the general audit strategy with the client's management. Okay? And then, which of the following matters do the auditor and management agree upon at this time? A, the appropriateness of the entity's plans for adverse conditions, determination of fraud risk factors, control weakness. No, actually, letter D yan. Coordination of the assistance of the client's personnel in data preparation. Ano ibig sabihin ng class? Yung mga documents na kailangan natin. Okay? Information na kailangan natin. Letter D yan. Okay? Diyan pa lang, sasabihin mo na agad, makipag-agree na tayo agad with the management kung sino ba yung i-contact namin para sa ganitong documents or ganitong information. Okay? Yun ang ibig sabihin ng letter D na yan. Assistance of client's personnel in data preparation. Okay, number 23 is about analytical procedures. Before we go to analytical procedures, let's have a short break. Okay.